Hey everyone, this is Lomi, and I am here to tell you about the time I fell victim to FOMO, or the fear of missing out. As you can see, this has resulted in me having a doll to unbox after I had pretty well decided I was only going to make dolls for myself from now on. I've been exploring that more as I get my inspiration back, but that doesn't change the fact that this box is here, and this is the story of how that happened. So a friend of mine has been wanting a chic line doll for years. This was Fairyland's fashion size line, a little smaller than a minifee, but with mature proportions. At the time, there wasn't as much of a market for the fashion-sized BJDs, and as a result, the chic line doll line wasn't super long-lived. It struggled along for a while, but was eventually retired, and because the chic lines never seemed all that popular and were also very hard to get clothing for, you just never really saw them a lot. Then, several months ago, my friend came across two chic lines being sold as a pair. It was actually the first time in years I had seen any for sale secondhand. They came with the sleeping faceplates, and the girl doll was one she wanted, and the price seemed fair for the dolls being incredibly well kept. Her problem was she only wanted the girl doll, and the seller wasn't eager to split them. My problem was she knew my weakness. So when she suggested I could take the chic line boy and she could take the girl, I made the uncharacteristically bad decision of a doll-related impulse purchase, and now I have this. A chic line Ital, also known as Breakaway in English. I've always been pretty immune to impulse buys because I've always been a researcher when it comes to my dolls. Every doll I've ever bought was chosen very carefully for a specific reason. I've had some that I purchased with the intention of sewing for them, or some bought to use for practicing face-ups, but those were still very carefully reasoned. And when it comes to dolls that become my characters, I'm even more careful. I may have mentioned it before in a video or two, but the biggest reason I went with 1/3 scale dolls was because there wasn't much variety in the way of fashion-sized dolls back when I started, or I definitely would have gone that way instead. The chic lines were in development when I was new to the BJD hobby, and had there been a good male counterpart available at the time, for all probably would have been a chic line Chloe instead of a Feeple 65 Chloe. But I am in the hobby specifically to create doll versions of the characters in my fantasy books, so I knew that the characters would need to match in both aesthetic and scale. In truth, if there had been more fashion-sized 1/4 dolls, I would have gotten the chic lines, because I have always been completely enamored with the aesthetic of the male doll bodies Fairyland made back then. The older muscular bodies they had for the Feeple 60, Feeple 65, and chic line boys are some of my favorite doll bodies ever. The jointing is a little old-fashioned, and it shows in some places, like the elbows, waist joint, and the mobility thigh, but 2010 was a really long time ago when it comes to the evolution of doll mechanics, so at the time, these were really sophisticated. This doll was mostly kept in his box from what I can tell, as his color has changed very little over the years. Aside from a few dirty marks on his hands, he looks practically new, and the delicate detail of things like the hands and feet, as well as the veins in his arms, are just phenomenal. Overall, his face-up is in really good condition. His eyelashes need to be re-glued, but that's an easy fix. If I'm being entirely honest, I don't actually like the face sculpt much, but I didn't know when I'd have the chance to try out chic line ownership again, because they just weren't all that common. There had been a few for sale maybe 5 years ago, but they were more expensive than this one. And the last one I'd seen before that was in 2017, so because of that, and because my friend knew I was a sucker for the old Fairyland boy bodies, it was easy to rope me in. I didn't know what I was going to do with him, I still don't, and of course immediately after he arrived, one went up for sale that was cheaper. But that's kind of the inevitable punishment you get for falling for that fear of missing out. But I don't know yet if I regret the decision to get him. For now, I can put him away while I think of things that I could do. I still think the body sculpting is incredible, and it's interesting to look at it and see how different my doll hobby would have been overall if Rune had been a chic line instead of the Eeplehouse EID I ultimately got. Now and then, I hear rumors that Fairyland might bring back the chic lines, and that might be fun because it would mean more clothes and accessories and face sculpts coming available, but it's not something I'd ever count on. In the meantime, he's going to stay put away while I consider what sort of project he might become. I like the range of motion, and I like how easy he is to handle, but if he stays, he might be getting a custom head because I'm not sure I can learn to vibe with Ital, but you also never know, so we'll see what sort of ideas I come up with across the next few months. I have several other dolls I want to finish before I do anything with him, and I don't want to rush since I'm just now getting back some inspiration to work on doll-related things. And if it doesn't work out in the end, well, I guess that's a hard lesson learned, huh? And that's all for today, though. Thanks for watching. Bye.